IKIM FM, inspirasi utama anda. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good afternoon to our dear listeners of IKIM FM. Welcome to a brand new episode of Shaping Tomorrow. I'm your host, Patricia Afrina. Alhamdulillah, thank you very much for listening to us from wherever you are, whether you're listening to this through radio or even through our social media pages, Facebook and YouTube. And before we go into the conversation itself, let me introduce the man of the show himself, Dr. Syafiq Borhanuddin, who is the fellow at IKIM Center for Economics and Social Studies, EMAS. Assalamualaikum, Doctor.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
How are you, Doctor?
I'm good, Alhamdulillah. How about you,
I,
Patricia?
I'm doing good too, Doctor. Alhamdulillah. So, Doctor, right, in the previous conversation, you talked about Islamic civilization in a multipolar world order. So, but that one, you touch on the general perspective. So, in this conversation, the topic is Islamic civilization's economic order in a multipolar world. And I'm sure you have a lot to share with us for today's episode, Doctor, because as we know, Islamic civilization has a long history of trade and also commerce. So there are a lot of things that we can share or we can talk about in this conversation. So, Doctor, for today's conversation, what are you going to share about?
Thank you, Patricia. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Patricia. Indeed, I think you started the conversation on the exact notes in saying that Islamic civilization for centuries or for a very long time in world history did a lot in terms of the economic
Yes.
order, economic system of the world, not only for Muslim states or Muslim kingdoms here and there, but I think more and more historians are saying that Islam did indeed control world trade. We control everywhere, the world trade globally. So
Globally.
it was an economic superpower as well, this Islamic civilization at one time. Of course, this is no longer the case, but now that we are moving to a multipolar world order where there isn't one civilization or one country wanting to dominate the whole economic system, and
Yes.
inshallah there will be a great opportunity for the Islamic civilization to play a positive and constructive role again in this multipolar world order. Now, I would like to bring your attention again to this definition of what is an Islamic civilization by Tan Sri Professor Syed Muhammad Nakib Alatas, for those who were not able to join us before, as well as for us to understand better this definition so that we know, we have a clear grounding basis on what we're talking about today. Is that number one, I think, for those who have tuned in to our previous conversations on the subject, we want to state once again that Islamic civilization is a living civilization. It's not a dead civilization. And on top of that, the particular part of this definition I want to draw our attention to is where Professor Atas says, when he says that this is a living civilization, in the sense of an unfolding of the theoretical and practical principles of Islam in the life of the people. So when he says these practical principles, unfolding of the practical principles, from what I understand, among others, is this economic system or economic life of the people. Because it's for the Muslim world, Muslim civilization, Islamic civilization, there's no secularization in the sense that what we talk about religion is just for our personal practice, and then for the society or the economic, there's nothing to do with religion. We don't have this kind of thinking, this kind of dichotomy. So this the economic realm in a civilization also Islam has something to say, and Islam has shaped this realm for the better in world history. So I think this is what I want to start our basis of discussion. And then today, if we look in terms of the developments in world affairs, we can see there are already many discussions about how the economy or the world economy as well as the economies in the world will
Mm.
change because of this multipolar world order. Because when again when these experts and governments speak of multipolar world order, the it means that uh, different or various civilizations can play a bigger role in offering a different or their unique contribution in various ways, not only in terms of thinking, but
Mm-hmm.
also in terms of practical aspects of life, like the economy.
Yes.
Like for example, in this article on Al Jazeera, I think was published a few years ago, when they speak of preparing for a multipolar world economy, I think they're
Mm-hmm.
speaking in the context of the rise of this BRICS bloc,
Yes,
which
yes.
BRICS referring to Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and now Malaysia, and some other countries are trying to join because they don't want to submit to just the Western sort of
Yes.
dominance and hegemony
Mm-hmm.
of the economy in the world. And
Mm-hmm.
then China, the civilization, one big civilization state in this multipolar world order, is already playing uh, playing big
Mm-hmm.
in this new reality. They have
Mm-hmm.
they are attempting $1 trillion project called the new Belt and Road Initiative. I'll tell you more about this
Mm-hmm.
uh, in the next slides. And then Russia also have, because of the tensions it has with other Western countries,
Mm-hmm.
it's been trying to sort of manage its own economy in a self-sufficient way.
Mm-hmm.
And in one time, the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, says declared that is perhaps Russia is the only self-sufficient country in terms of national resources, meaning they are not dependent. They don't need to depend on other countries
Yes.
and regions to be to be live in this world. In other words, in this
So again, they
globalized
can do
world,
it by themselves. Huh? Mm-hmm.
they can live on their own. Basically, of
Mm-hmm.
course, they may not reach the kind of extravagant, wealthy life like in the West, but maybe they don't want
Mm-hmm.
that to begin with,
Mm.
right?
Okay.
Because they are more or less still embrace traditional Christian teachings, the Orthodox Christianity.
Ah.
And then Iran also in this particular site on the right, they have long been talking about developing or building an economy of resistance,
Mm-hmm.
not in the military sense, but in the sense of resisting any kind of sanctions and economic attacks by other countries, because that's
Uh-huh.
what they have been experiencing. So they
Yes,
need to,
yes.
again, Iran too needs to survive on their own. So
Mm.
and that means they produce their own goods and services, and they are more relying on their own talents and expertise
Just like
and
self-sustained.
resources.
Mm-hmm.
Self-sustaining, self-sufficient
Mm-hmm.
model of economy.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the trend. I'm just giving a backdrop in terms of what's happening in the world now, and how could Islamic civilization fit in or play a role in this new scenario. So and then when the Chinese government, when China is talking about this new Silk Road, because
Mm.
why is it new? Because the old one, there was also an old version of it, which Islamic civilization play a big role.
Yes.
From Xi'an, which was a Muslim Chinese part. It goes through Samarkand and goes to Baghdad,
Mm.
all these great Muslim lands, and,
Yes.
and and basically the Muslim world before Islamic civilization basically shaped the trade routes of the Silk Road. So,
Mm.
but now China also wants. So basically, now China wants to not only revive that Silk trade route, but also through sea, through various other means. If you can see in this map,
Uh,
so
the expanding.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's a more elaborate kind of
Ah,
trade route, and of course, in from China's point of view, it's not only to enrich themselves, but also to help others, to elevate others as well together,
mm,
because that's their philosophy of governance, and also their
mm,
philosophy of working with other nations. It's never about enriching themselves, as far as
yes.
as far as the Chinese point of view, Chinese philosophy is.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what's happening in the world. And also the Russian thinker, an expert on foreign affairs, international affairs, in his book, The Theory of Multipolar World, by Alexander Dugin, he
Mm-hmm.
also saw that when we talk about multipolar world in the international politics sense, it also means something will happen in the economic realm, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he knows that because, like for example, he mentions in this book that Islamic civilization has a different model and perspective of
Mm-hmm.
economic. So therefore, there will be different kind of arrangements in the world order.
Mm-hmm.
So in this passage in this book, I try to extract some of his suggestions on possibly what different civilizations can try to build, in this multipolar world order, so that it's a win-win for all, not only a win for certain groups of people, for certain
Mm-hmm.
billionaires only, right?
Yeah.
So this is also supported or argued by an eminent Russian thinker like Alexander Dugin. Now, and also, I want to share with you what a Muslim scholar, a Muslim thinker of economics are saying uh, about about this issue also. Dr. Adi Setia, he was actually one of my teacher of Islamic economic thought before at graduate school
Mm-hmm.
at CASIS, the Center for Advanced Studies on Islam, Science and Civilization. He said that, in fact, he said this when he appeared on Shaping Tomorrow on IKIM Radio a few years back. I think it was just during the COVID period.
Mm-hmm.
He said that just as there is cultural diversity in the world, we should recognize the fact that there is diversity in of socio-economic vision in the world too.
Mm.
Because now there's only one template of socioeconomic vision, which is the capitalist one, the global
Ah.
capitalist one. But
Mm.
but but then we always talk about, oh, there's diversity. We need to embrace our diversity,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
recognize our diversity. But we don't even recognize that our different communities have different vision of economic
Yeah.
life, for example, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I think it's about time we become more consistent in this world, so by recognizing there's different economic vision for the Muslims, for the Christians, for
Mm.
the Buddhists, for the Hindus, rather than say, oh, everyone needs to embrace capitalism.
Mm. But then, doctor, is it achievable to have multiple system, as you mentioned? Because for the like briefly, we have like capitalist system, and then now that socialist system. But is it achievable to live in the multi world where they have multiple system, especially we talk about the economic perspective?
Yes,
Mm.
it's possible because it's been in practice for more than
Mm.
1,000 years,
What am I saying?
whereas capitalism is only 100 years in the world.
Ah. Mm.
See, so if you look in the bigger historical context, this is the
Uh-huh.
reality. This is the reality. So when we have multiple systems, what it means is, what is emphasized is ethics, is
Ah.
justice,
Mm-hmm.
no disparity between the rich and the poor, because all
Yes.
religions want justice, want make sure that
Yes.
the poor is taken care of, that there is no
Mm.
one is left behind. Basically,
Mm.
religion teaches that, not
Uh-huh.
capitalism.
The
capitalism
capitalism.
never capitalism never advocates the poor to be uplifted. So
Yes.
it's not the capitalist logic
Mm-hmm.
to to address this disparity, this
So
gap of wealth. Yeah.
yes, it means that we can actually live outside the capitalist system because I've seen conversations on the social media, doctor, where people seems like find it hard to escape the capitalist. Yeah, they say that it's very hard. Like everything that you do or everything that you use right now has something to do with capitalist. So how can we escape the system of capitalism?
Very good question. Now, this is where my following slides will attempt to answer this question. Number
Mm.
one, we have to relearn. When I say we, I mean not only kids in school, but also those in universities as well as the academics in universities.
Uh
The
huh.
other the other day I was just listening to this. I think he's a Pakistani professor at Oxford University teaching
Mm.
economics. For most of his life, he teaches the conventional capitalist Western economic,
Oh.
you know, teachings.
Mm.
But now in late in his career, he's thinking to himself, hold on, I really need to study what is the
Uh,
economic system of the
Relearn.
Islam. Yeah,
Ah.
because there is a growing need for it. Because now that no there's so much problems in the world, it's time
Mm.
that Islamic civilization step up as as a civilization with its old economic model to offer some
Mhm.
solutions to the world and offer some justice in the world, because everyone wants
Yes.
justice, and no one wants to be controlled by the capitalist elites, right?
Yes.
And we want to help as many people as possible. I mean, so this has to be part of the long term agenda of the Muslims, not only to help
Yes.
the Muslims, but to help humanity, because it will benefit
Mhm.
everyone, humanity as a whole. So, but it has to start with concepts, understanding the right concepts which shape economic thinking of Islamic civilization for centuries. It has to
Mhm.
start with that. To relearn doesn't mean you have to read all the classical books again. Of course, it's good if there are people who can do that, but
Uh-huh.
that is fardu kifayah. Maybe at least some people will have to do that.
Mhm.
At the highest level, they become scholars and really familiar. I have some friends who are already on the way to do that. Uh,
Mhm.
uh, but at least for many people who don't have the time, like working professionals, those who work in the financial sector, in the corporate sector, they should try to understand at the very least some of these things that I'm uh, sharing, outlining
Mhm. Mhm.
in our slides. If those who are tuning in on our YouTube and Facebook live video, at least the basic concepts which differs from the capitalist thinking of economics. And some of us, I think sometimes Muslims don't realize they are embracing and adopting a capitalist economic thinking in their minds, you know,
I didn't realize it.
without realizing it
Uh-huh.
at a personal level. I will show you how after this.
Mhm.
But this slide, I'm sharing a general overview. When Islam, when it talks about religion, ad-din, is not just a personal practice, but also a collective civilizational practice which aims for justice and happiness. So supposedly, a Muslim majority state, the goal is not only economic growth, although some degree of economic growth is needed, but the
Mhm.
ultimate aim is civilization. We need to have a more um, balanced life, a more justice in the self and the society, and also the most importantly to have some happiness. There shouldn't be a high rates of depression and anxiety and all like that
Mhm.
in a Muslim state, because
Uh-huh. Who wants to live like that, doctor?
Islam that has already shown us the way not to live like that.
Yes. Uh-huh. Mhm.
Right. Uh,
Mashallah.
when we say Islam is a deen, it also includes some notions or concepts that is what we call today relates to the economic life of people. I won't elaborate.
Mhm.
There's no time to elaborate one by one, but I will just mention perhaps a few. Like for example, this term iqtisad on the top left of this slide, iqtisad. You actually in many Muslim lands, this term is widely used to refer to economics. Before we use the term, like in the Malay language now, we use the term economy. But
Mm.
even in the early 20th century, Malay leaders like Dato' An bin Jaafar, that founded UMNO, he used the term iktisad to refer to economy, memajukan iktisad. Yeah,
Ah.
and but now it's considered quite a old Malay word. But some Muslims in like Malaysia, they still use this term iktisad. Like I noticed,
Iktisad.
like in Kelantan and Terengganu, I noticed some of their government institutions they use the term iktisad.
Mm.
But this is very important. Why? Because if you say the word economy, if you define the word economy, automatically it's like a capitalist secular
Mhm.
perspective. But if you say
Yes.
the term episode, it is basically means a just condition of a just way of practicing, a justice way of practicing or managing resources, so that you're not too extravagant nor too sort of bukhul, the term in Arabic, there's a so too selfish or too greedy sort of thing,
Oh,
So this
mashallah.
thought has a meaning. So it means do not exploit others. Do not be too extravagant with your resources and wealth. It means to live
Mm.
moderately, to live with to
Mm-hmm.
have a moderate economic life. That's what it
Mm-hmm.
means. But if you use the term economics in the English or in the Western sense, it doesn't have that meaning. Different meaning.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It's simply about people have unlimited wants, and then there's you need to allocate resource to to manage their unlimited wants. but
Mashallah.
but Muslims
Mm-hmm.
have different way of looking at how to manage your resources, this economic life, and as a
Mm-hmm.
whole,
Mm-hmm.
all
Yes.
at the personal level as well as the collective social level.
Mm.
That's just one example, Patricia.
Even the way we define the economic system itself is different. And mashallah, that's very interesting to hear, doctor, about
Yeah.
this. So it means it's inclusive in not just the perspective of people, because of course we talk about capitalists, and then we think about money, making more money. So but
Yes.
here it talks about, it relates to the social, as you mentioned, Adin concept of
Balance.
justice and happiness. Yes, it's
Yes.
very balanced.
Yes.
Mm.
And then, okay, when you say just now, sorry, I want to skip because you're very advanced already, Patricia. When you say about constantly wanting to make money, I mean that seems to
Mm.
be the goal or the aim of many individuals. Even in Muslim societies these days,
Mm.
try, the aim is to be a millionaire or a billionaire, make more
Yeah.
money for yourself, and then hopefully some of them do think good. Hopefully one day I can help people with that wealth.
Yeah.
But then the economic thinking of Islam is never about that. It's about
Mm.
making enough for yourself so that you can feed your family and feed your
Mm.
neighborhood. Give
Mhm.
sadaqah, give infaq, give zakat, of course, and then give
Mhm.
wakaf. So
Mhm.
it's never about hoarding, amassing that wealth for
Mhm.
yourself, but always
Yes.
find a way to give back. It's a
Mhm.
solidarity economy. It's not about competition and self-interest and profit maximization. the,
Mhm.
the whole basic thing, foundational thinking is different altogether from capitalism that we
Mhm.
see
So
today.
it's like there's a like modesty, doctor.
Yes, yes.
Oh, and
All
then.
all these ethics, modesty is actually in practice have been practiced by Muslims for centuries in Islamic civilization.
Mashallah.
See?
Mhm.
It's not just like a personal thing. Oh, I just want to be modest at the workplace. Finish. No,
Ah.
I want modest fashion. No, but even your modesty in how you think about your economic
Ah.
life, about your social,
Mm.
about your society.
Mhm.
Uh,
But then, doctor, if you don't mind, I've heard people saying that in this dunya, it is not wrong for us to gain mass wealth of money, because they said that because later you can do zakah, you can do sedekah. What do you think about that?
yeah, I'm not saying it's wrong,
Mm-hmm.
but that is not the goal in itself.
Uh huh.
Because some, even in the earlier times of Islam, the Sahaba, even the Prophet is not a very poor. He's not a poor person at all. The Prophet Muhammad
Mm-hmm.
sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's just that he
Yes.
keeps on giving in the most generous,
Uh huh.
incredibly generous, absolutely generous way, because he wants
Mashallah.
to, because his rahmatan truly embody rahmatan lil alamin. But then,
Yes.
if you look at the later periods of the Muslims, like the
Mm.
Sahaba, for example, they were very
Mm-hmm.
wealthy because they were only merchants and traders.
Yes.
But look at how their attitude towards wealth, and how
Ah.
they reinvest or circulate that wealth in
Mm-hmm.
such that, because the main thing is their principles. So they want to demonstrate how that wealth, that amanah of wealth, can be
Mm-hmm.
translated into the teachings of Islam. How do you make sure
Mm-hmm.
it's consistent? because the end game is justice, is civilization and happiness, not merely
Yes.
for not merely to build a corporate empire, not merely to
Mhm.
build right, not to
Yes.
be not to be an Elon Musk, certainly. So the whole philosophy is different. That's why Islamic civilization is a very compassionate civilization. In the
Mm.
cities, you look in the Ottoman Istanbul city, for example, they even take care of animals, birds and cats. That's
MashaAllah.
through wakaf,
True
okay,
akal.
not billionaire donation, through wakaf, meaning it's a collective effort. People,
MashaAllah. Mm-hmm.
and education was taken care of. Whoever want to study madrasah, the sheikh, the teachers is taken care of, and the
Mm.
sultans, especially the sultans themselves, would give through wakaf,
Mm.
through many charitable avenues.
Mm.
So that's the whole culture, the whole economic culture, economic philosophy that we
Mm.
have lost today, because we have lost the basic thinking, the basic economic thinking, economic philosophy, economic vision. So we
Mm.
need to rewire that thinking, because we have been rewired, conditioned by capitalist thinking.
Yes.
But
So we
it
have
doesn't
to
mean it's not
relearn.
possible. Yeah, we have to relearn. We
Mm.
have to slowly, gradually. I'm not saying we have to totally get rid of capitalist thinking, or
Uh-huh.
totally everyone resign from their jobs. I'm not
Totally
saying that.
reject.
I'm not
Uh-uh.
saying that. Please don't resign from your jobs. But we need to figure out a way slowly, inshallah, so that we move from this global capitalism on this left side, the slide, to the global ummatic economy, or Islamic civilization's
Mm-hmm.
economic model.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to show these are some of the practices that was in place. Uh, excuse me. So you have, like, for example, the Baitul Mal, which is still in practice. Like, for example, in Malaysia, is under the religious council of each states.
Yes.
But before, it is under the entire kingdom. There is a Baitul Mal for entire kingdom, to really to make sure the economy is an economy that circulates wealth, doesn't make sure
Ah.
that everyone, even the poor, is well taken care of. And plays a very significant function in Muslim civilization.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then there's the wakaf we've talked. I mean, this is quite familiar. And then something that some a practice that Muslims today may not be very familiar with is the mahalla system, which is
Mm.
basically a neighborhood system where each neighborhood in an area of a Muslim land would
Mm-hmm.
would have a self-sufficient economic system, so that they don't have to go
Oh.
to supermarkets. There's no supermarkets last time, you see, but somehow they
Ah.
can
Uh-huh.
survive. They
Mm-hmm.
can survive. They have everything they need within even a small community, like a rural area, a city. Of course, usually city they would have something like the supermarket, but not the same, which is called the
Uh-huh.
souk, the bazaar, the grand bazaars.
Ah, yes.
Right? In some
Mm-hmm.
Muslim lands, they still have these bazaars, and
Yes.
these bazaars usually is under wakaf.
Mm.
Basically, they don't those traders or merchants who work in the bazaar, they don't have to pay exorbitant rents to the
Mm-hmm.
to any supermarket owner like today. You see,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
even poor people can become businessmen in the bazaar, for example. So
Mm.
it's a very inclusive economic system, very inclusive.
So it's
Uh,
encouraging the economic system, right? Dr. May mentioned that even the poor people can do, can be merchant, can do business. So it seems like a very robust economy can happen here.
Yes, it's
Mm.
things like this. A lot of this is still possible, but
Mm.
sometimes maybe, like Muslim policymakers, Muslim governments, they are not aware enough. They don't have enough knowledge about this, because
Mm.
a lot of it is no longer, either not longer being practiced, or and also in the same time you have a different economic thinking in the mind, so it becomes
Yes.
very difficult for them to reconcile all these different, because these practices comes from a different world, different perspective, different philosophy in the mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So but now in policy making, for example, many people have different economic thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not as easy as bringing, oh, let's have a wakaf and soak and have it today again. No, because you need people to understand first, and then they will want to commit to practice this kind of economic model,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? So that's why I think we have to recognize also, like there are scholars who are focusing on trying to change that thinking, that whole philosophy and perspective of the Muslims in books like this. This is basically a book about the worldview of Islam
Mm-hmm.
by Professor Alatas, Syed Muhammad Nakib Alatas as well. Of course, many great scholars of the past too have written books, something like this. But in the modern day context, in the English language, we have books like this too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we shouldn't see works who write scholars who write on books like on Islamic thought in isolation from many of the things we want to do in economics or education and politics, because
Mm-hmm.
everything should be seen as a connected from a connected perspective, right? Otherwise, everything will break down. It's not connected. You see.
Yes.
Uh, so that's this is this so there's a basis for all these economic practices in Islamic civilization.
Mm-hmm.
So the basis is we have to move away from the basic thinking of global capitalism slowly, gradually, and try to make sure we understand that first.
Yes.
Uh, I want to give credit also to the OIC, the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, because actually since the 70s, they have attempted to do something to 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 offer economic assistance to Muslim populations who are really in need, who are in poverty, for example. So they have
Mm-hmm.
actually created this Islamic Solidarity Fund for Development since the 70s, and I think wealthy Muslim countries have been giving big sums of money to
Mm-hmm.
help the less wealthy, richer Muslim countries. So this is the
Mm-hmm.
spirit. Basically
Mashallah.
this is a portion of the spirit of the great Islamic civilization model we had in the past. But this is not enough. This is very
Mashallah.
good, but this is not enough.
Mm-hmm. We need
So
more.
we need
Mm-hmm.
more. So we
More
need a
effort. Mm-hmm.
more effort, more complete, more comprehensive thinking,
Mm-hmm.
including the correct thinking,
Mm-hmm.
and then this is perhaps one way we can because to transition, maybe we don't say how can we completely stop and get rid of the current system. No, we don't think like that. I think maybe the best term or best way to think about it is a transition, just like how
Mm-hmm.
there's a transition from unipolar world to a transition to multipolar world. It's a
Yes.
transition because it's just happening now. Like too many people want to move to that direction. So
Mm-hmm.
so now is a good time because people are moving or transitioning slowly to multipolar world where different
Mm-hmm.
civilizations can play a bigger role in terms of how they shape the world. So it mustn't it won't it, it will not be necessarily a kind of confrontation or like uh, competition between all these civilizations who gets to control world resources. But
Mm-hmm.
I think because fortunately, because big civilizations like China, Russia, they want to talk about together, build a shared future together, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is the spirit. So in other words, Islamic civilization as economic system can complement China, Russia, Africa, and the West. In fact, maybe
Mm-hmm.
help them too. Once the Muslim world is better taken care of,
Mm-hmm.
especially those who really need it. So if, for example, the transition entails, for example, in the global capitalism today, they talk all about, the emphasis is all about market-driven competition, extreme
Yes.
competition, right? Uh, uh, but in the Islamic civilization, the emphasis is community-driven, not market-driven. And then, of course, there can be some healthy competition, but the overall spirit is cooperation, kerjasama in bahasa Melayu.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Gotong royong in bahasa Melayu. We
Gotong
cooperate.
royong.
Yeah, It means we complement each other. So much
Yes.
so, okay, I give you example how it was practiced in the Muslim bazaar, like in the Muslim marketplace, the Muslim grand bazaar in the past. Yeah? For example,
Mm.
if one trader, if he already sold enough goods or enough products for the day, but
Mm.
customers still come to him. He said, "No, Alhamdulillah, I have enough. Please go to next door who have not have sold enough."
Wow.
So this is a true story. That was the practice in Islamic civilization's economic
So
system.
it's not they trading not being greedy.
Not about competition in an extreme sense, but about cooperation. The main thing is
MashaAllah.
the main thing is the ummah, the collective, not just himself, right?
Mm.
And then
Mm.
the main thing also is to make sure there is you don't destroy the environment. In capitalism,
Yeah.
they talk about negative externalities, meaning sometimes when you have so much industries or growth, sometimes you have pollution
Yes.
uh, because they cannot do anything about it because they
Mm.
don't. But in reality, because they don't think about it, they don't want to because they
They
are
don't care.
they don't care because for them the environment is just a resource for them to
Mm.
control
Yes.
to
Mm.
convert into a commodity. But
Mm.
The Muslims, they don't think like this. The
Mm.
environment, the trees, the plants, the rivers, these are not commodities, but
Mm.
it's an amanah. It's an amanah for the Muslim. So they
Mm.
must sure there is a healthy ecosystem so that human beings can live healthy too.
Yes.
Uh, uh, so so inshallah Muslims and the world will want to move in that same direction, and then when you move in that same direction, uh, uh, you will have inshallah a global community of shared future who wants to base their economic life based on ethics, based on justice also, and based on
Mm.
cooperation, because this is basically the philosophy of China, Russia, Africa, the traditional teachings of their religions. This is what they all want.
Mm.
So it's very possible, I would say, Patricia.
Mm.
So lastly, before I add my exploration, my sharing, I mean, I think there are many more experts. I call this exercise or this sharing like reimagination kind of
Mm.
exercise.
Uh-huh.
Of course, I did my research, but people may still correct me if I'm wrong somewhere. But I think
Mm.
the most important things, the foundations, I think inshallah, I believe I get it right because I refer to the experts and the right sources as well. So to conclude, there are just three take-home points I would like to propose for our audience consideration. Number one is that when we think about wealth, in this economic life of all of us, individually, collectively, the main is not to enrich ourselves, but to enrich the impoverished, including
Mm.
people of other faith, actually, for the Muslim point of view. And we do this through recirculation of our surplus wealth. So we don't just simply give all of our wealth altogether because we need some to eat and to feed our family and our extended family.
Yes.
But when
Mm.
there's surplus, so the keyword here is surplus. When you have extra, you give it
To
through
others.
zakat,
Mm-hmm.
through the mechanism of zakat to others, through mechanism of zakat, wakaf. There's also infaq. There's also sadaqah, and then
Mm-hmm.
within your family, extended family is taken care of. You look in terms of your neighborhood, and then
Mm-hmm.
beyond your neighborhood, you look at your country. If once your country is
Mm-hmm.
taken care of, you look at your region,
Mm.
the Malay Indonesia archipelago, and then you look at the ummah. So there's always that very orderly kind of layers of
Mm-hmm.
system where we can make sure everyone is taken care of. Number two,
Mm-hmm.
personal ambition or vocation or work should always be in the service of the broader collective or broader society. This is what the word fardu kifayah means.
Mm-hmm.
As Muslims, we learn about this since we were a child, that there's fardu ain, ilmu fardu ain, and certain knowledge and certain work is fardu kifayah. But we should continue to apply and revive this concept, this guideline of fardu kifayah means
Mm.
we should not only think about our self career advancement or macam it's all about me. Where can I go next? How can I step up the corporate ladder? Kan?
Yes. Uh-huh.
That's not for the kifayah. You're just thinking about you. So for the kifayah,
Selfish.
yeah, selfish. So the
Mm.
Muslim have a different economic thinking about even for work. For example,
Mm.
if you want to think, if a Muslim work for this company, how can it benefit the ummah or the Muslim community? If
Mm.
I work in this line of work, this profession, how can it benefit the Muslim community with all these problems?
Mashallah. Mm.
So this is the understanding that we should try to cultivate and pursue.
Mm.
And lastly, if we pursue this kind of thinking and relearn these things, inshallah, every individual Muslim will contribute to the larger Islamic civilization, and inshallah will be part of a new era in world history where the
Mm.
multipolar world is unfolding, where
Mm.
diversity of economic vision is also celebrated and allowed to thrive. And inshallah,
Mm.
do this. Even if we attempt to do this, but we don't see the outcome or the result yet, inshallah, we attempt. I think we'll be very happy, Patricia. You and me,
Mm.
inshallah.
Inshallah, the shift takes time, but then we are already on the direction. At the very least, like we expose about this to the public, so they take note about it and learn about what can they do to be a part of the system. Mashallah, doctor, I've learned a lot in this conversation. You talk about the socioeconomics, how it is related, and how it can empower the ummah, I would say, because not just thinking about yourself, but also think about the people around you, about the nation, and eventually it spread out to the outer layer to the world itself. And it shows that by embracing values such as you mentioned about the social justice, ethical right, and also the modesty, for example, the communal welfare, I would say, uh, Islamic economic principles can provide fresh solutions to the problems, to the challenges that we're facing in the modern times today. And with that being said, Doctor, I would like to thank you for your insights on today's conversation. And we hope that today's sharing will be beneficial and also inspiring to those who are listening to us either through radio, Facebook, and also YouTube. So, for our dear listeners, if you have any comments or you would like to share your thoughts about today's conversation, you can leave it on the comment section of this posting on our Facebook, on YouTube. So can you leave it there, and we would love to see it. And with that being said, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.